Hey, this is Josh. Thanks for watching, and today I wanted to go over the distributive property. Now, I wrote a bunch of problems over here, and I don't want you looking at them saying, wait a second, this is way too technical, I'm not there yet. That's okay. I just figured rather than making 4 distributive property videos, I would rather just try to combine it all into one. And if you're only up here, and that's as much as you need to know for what you're doing, then just stop the video there. If you want to follow along and watch the rest, then I'm going to go through all 6 of these problems right now. I'm going to start with this top guy. Now, what the distributive property is telling us is that in order to work through some types of problems, you can't just combine everything and be done, all right? Things are going to get more technical, so they had to create a rule so that you could actually use rules of math to complete the problem in a uniform way. I know that's a lot of jargon, but really what I'm trying to say is as we get more technical, it just means there's rules to help you out, okay? Now, what we're gonna do here is, yes, you could do order of operations and say, well, I add the 2 numbers in the middle and get a 5. And so I don't really need the distributive property and I just do 2 times 5. But in order to see it from the beginning, I'm gonna start here and kind of work my way through all of these and talk as well. So we can look at this in 2 different ways. We can look at it as 2 times 2 plus 3, or we can look at it as 2 times 2 and 2 times 3. And you're gonna get the same answer. If I make this into a 5, and I do 2 times 5, I'm gonna get a 10. If I bust it apart, then I end up with 2 times 2 plus 2 times 3, right? 2 times 2 and 2 times 3. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, so I end up with a 10, okay? And so all I've done is just prove that I can bust this thing apart by distributing. Now, some of my students call these rainbows, call them what you want, but I like drawing these arrows because I think it reminds you what needs to get done and reminds you to continue in one uniform fashion. Now, I also wrote these up here because if you want to jump ahead and start trying them as we go, feel free. Remember, you can always pause these videos. You don't need to watch this thing straight through. And if you need to watch it more than once, that's okay too. So let's move on to the next guy here. We have 4 minus 5 plus 2. We use the same rule. We rainbow this out, 1, 2, and 3. You just got to be careful. This guy's a negative, so make sure you put that in. We have now 2 times 4. We have a minus sign. So you can either write it as minus, or you can do it like this, at plus 2 times negative 5, right? Because it is a negative 5. You know, you can even make it like that, plus minus, and plus minus 5 or negative 5, and then plus 2 times 2. Again, if I do stuff like that and it's not making sense, then you gotta go back and watch my other practical math videos on working with positive and negative numbers. If you're getting to this kind of stuff now, you need to be a little better at that so that you can quickly move through that and keep on going. 2 times 4 is 8. Positive 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. 2 times 2 is 4. Now, when we're adding and subtracting, it doesn't matter what order we do them in. So we can do 8 minus 10 and get a negative 2. I can just bring this guy down and do plus 4. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2. And so that would be the final number of our expression. Remember, these guys up here are just expressions because there's no equal sign. These guys down here are equations. So we distribute to all 3 parts. Take into account negatives. Be careful. That's probably the one thing you're going to do wrong when it comes to all of this. Draw your rainbows or marks so that you remember what to do, and then just keep showing step by step how you're condensing this expression. Let's go on to the next guy. If you want to challenge yourself, I really recommend do these ahead of time, okay? Pause the video, try them on your own. You're really going to learn a lot more by failing, a couple times in the comfort of your own home versus just watching me the whole time. All right, I added this little extra guy here, but that's okay. Let's do what we know. Okay, so now I've added x, and so this would probably be the intro to distributive property. Now we're kind of taking it to like a pre-algebra level, and maybe this could be almost considered like an algebra level. Okay, but the rules stay the same, and that's the nice part about this. 2 times 3x is 6x, and we distribute, and let's see here, 2 times 4 is an 8. I'm kind of taking a shortcut by not writing them all out, plus 2x. From here, we can combine like terms. And when I say that, we combine terms that are similar. Okay, we have a 6x's plus 2x's is 8x's. And then this guy just comes along for the ride and you're done. Okay, you combine what you can. If there were a bunch of numbers here, like the previous problem, we just combine all the numbers and we're all set. Let me move on to the next one. Let's see what we get. Oops. Let's see here. We have 2x plus 4 equals 12. All right. Distribute. And I get a 2x plus 8 equals 12. Now this one is an equation, so we might as well just keep on going and solve. This is my barrier. I got to isolate the variable, so this has to disappear. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. Hopefully you're starting to see, hey Josh, these rules are the same, man. Every single problem you're doing, the rules are the same. That's the nice part about some of this stuff is as long as you're realizing that there's rules in here and consistent things, it should help you along. Let's see here. On this side, I end up with a 2x. 12 minus 8 is 4. Now I just got to finish isolating. I divide by 2, x equals, we read our fractions down. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And you could probably even go back and check your answer, which most teachers love for you to do, just to make sure. I mean, because if this is on a test, you would totally be able to check your work and know you got 100%. And when I say plug it in, well, where there's an x, we plug in a 2. So let's see here. We end up with 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. So it does work. Now these next two are going to take us a little bit deeper into math, and if you are stopping here because that's as far as you need to know for your lesson, homework, test, whatever, then stop there. If you want to see these last couple, just because you got a couple extra seconds to spare while you're sitting there, let's wrap them up. 2x plus 4 plus 3 equals 19. Okay, again, distribute, and we get a 2x plus 8. Again, I'm not writing everything in little bubbles anymore. You should understand that. And if it's I'm going too fast, just pause the video. Let's see here. We have a plus 3 equals 19. From here, there's two steps you could do. You could either subtract 8 from both sides, right, to get rid of the 8. This is our barrier. You could subtract 8 from both sides and subtract 3 from both sides and get 2x and a number. Or you can combine these and subtract the whole thing in one big shebang, all right? 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 2x plus 11 equals 19. And so by combining them, some people feel like that's easier because then I'm subtracting all of the numbers all at one time. Some people like to subtract 8 from both sides and cross it out, and then subtract 3 from both sides and cross it out and work through it. Either way is okay. Minus 11, so we have 2x equals 19 minus 11 is 8. And from there we just solve for x. Divide by 2, x equals 8. 8 divided by 2, which is 4. Again, this is an equation, so we should be able to plug this answer in, this value, back into the original equation, and it should come out to where both sides match. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19. So we are good to go. If you're getting the hang of it, one last problem here. Let's jam through this guy and you are off to the races. Let's see here. We have 2x plus 1 equals 4x plus 2. Okay, so now we have them on both sides of the equation. And it's not any trickier. You just got to follow those rules. So first, let's do our rainbows. Let's distribute, get that part done. We end up with a 2x plus 2 equals 4x plus 8. Now, it doesn't matter what side you put the x's on, what side you put the numbers on. The goal when you're solving equations is to pick a side so that you have your x's on one side and your numbers on the other. It's okay to have all your x's on this side. Some teachers like them to be on the left, so you always read it from x equals this, but it doesn't matter, okay? It's gonna look backwards if you have it the other way, but that's okay. You still just read it from this side and you're good to go. I need to isolate the variables from the numbers. I need to combine like terms. So this is my barrier. I'm gonna move these over and I'm gonna subtract 2 x's from this side. What I do to this side, I gotta do to this side. This just moves down. So I have 2 equals 4 x's minus 2 x's is 2 x's, and I have a plus 8. Now I got to do the same thing for the numbers, right? X's on one side, numbers on the other. X's are all on one side, so I'm okay there, but now I need to get rid of this 8. I subtract 8, subtract 8. Well, let's see here, that's a 0, 2x, 2 minus 8 is negative 6. And then we just divide like we have been for all the other ones. You divide to get rid of that 2 next to the x. Divide by 2, divide by 2. These cancel. So you have x equals negative, remember you gotta read your fractions down. And you have more space than I probably do. So when you're writing these out, make sure you spread this out farther down just so that you're not jamming up your work. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Okay, and that's again why I like you to read your fractions down. Say it out loud. Okay, there's probably nobody even sitting in the room with you. So just say it to yourself to remind yourself what you do. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. If I put in my negative 3 here and here because I want to check my work, then it should work out. Negative 3, negative 3. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. Ta-da! They match. Awesome. Okay. Now this part, when I was rechecking it, or when I was checking it, I guess I should say, I did go kind of fast. Okay. And I apologize. It's just that when you're doing this level of work, the checking and me plugging in these values should not be that complicated for you. Okay, if it is, then just slow down the video, pause it for a minute, look at what I'm doing, make sure you understand how I just did that little multiply thing here, and move on. Because all I did was I just combined the terms inside the parentheses. I technically could have done 2 times negative 3 plus 2 times 1, and I would get a negative 6 plus a 2, which would give me a negative 4. I did go kind of quick through that, but again, you should understand these little basics. And from there, we work through this guy, spreading out our work as much as we can. Okay, so again, the distributive property, there's not a lot to it. These are some of the basics with expressions. Then we start adding in variables and completing them like this. Then we start working where there's problems on both sides of the equal sign. And if you got this guy, then that's awesome, because this really is like good stuff for the foundations of an Algebra 1 class or anything else that you'll be using. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Send me questions if there's other things that you aren't sure of and want to hear more about, because I'm here to help. Thanks.